This lecture is on solar thermal power plants. First, I will read out this text given over here. Then I will explain the working and the construction of the solar thermal power plant with the help of this figure 1. So here it goes. Solar thermal power plant is an electricity generation plant that utilizes energy from the sun to produce electricity. The functioning of solar thermal power plant is essentially the same as that of fossil fuel based thermal power plant, except that the latter one utilizes energy obtained from combustion of fossil fuels. So that means the working of the con conventional thermal power plants or the fossil fuel based thermal power plants and the working of the solar thermal plant is exactly the same. That is, both work on the Rankine cycle. The only difference is that in case of conventional thermal power plants, the energy obtained from the combustion of the fossil fuel is used to generate the electricity, where in case of solar thermal power plant, the solar energy is used to generate the electricity. Now, solar thermal power plant utilizes solar energy to heat a fluid, also known as a heat transfer fluid, to a high temperature. Then this fluid transfers its heat to the water to produce high temperature superheated steam. So the thermal energy of this heated fluid is used to produce superheated steam. Superheated steam. Whereas in case of conventional power plants, the energy obtained from the combustion of fossil fuel is used to convert water into a superheated steam, and then this steam is used to turn steam turbines in power plant, and this mechanical energy is then converted to electricity by a generator. Now let me explain the working of the solar thermal power plant. So the solar thermal power plant can be broadly divided into three blocks. First block is solar energy collection and harnessing block. Second block is thermal energy storage block. Third block is thermal energy to electrical energy conversion block. So I will explain all these three blocks one by one. So first one is the solar energy collection and harnessing block. This block includes all the reflectors installed on a tracking system that enables the reflectors to follow the sun's motion across the sky and to concentrate and focus the sunlight onto a thermal receiver. So here you can see that there are a number of reflectors are spread over a very large area, which is also called the solar collector field. Now the solar energy falling on these reflectors reflects all the radiation onto these tubes, which are also called the receivers. Now a fluid is made to pass through these tubes to transfer the heat absorbed in these tubes to some other place for the application, right? Now second uh, important block of this complete system is thermal energy storage block. Um, Now here I will explain the thermal energy storage block. See, this is thermal energy storage block. So the high temperature fluid, after gaining the energy as it flows through the tubes, now moves from here in this direction, and here it is a three-way ball. A part of this goes downward into this thermal energy storage block. So now what is the need of this thermal energy storage block? You see, throughout the day, the solar energy intensity varies from morning till evening. First, from morning to noon, it gradually increases. Then from noon to evening, it gradually goes down. So because of this variation in the solar intensity, the output of solar energy based thermal power plant also varies. So in order to overcome this variability of the thermal energy output, electricity output due to variation in the solar intensity during the entire day, the thermal storage is used as a buffer to reduce this variation. Now there are some other incidences as well. Suppose that there is a clear sky, but during the day there may be some time when the sun goes behind the clouds, or suppose the system is required to produce electricity even beyond the daylight hours, then the energy stored in this block is used to produce electricity. from a solar energy based thermal power plants. So let me explain how this energy is stored in this block. So as I said that this heat transfer fluid is a part of this heat transfer fluid is sent to this thermal energy storage block. So this heat transfer fluid, heated heat transfer fluid is coming downward in this direction. Here is a heat exchanger. Now in this block there are two tanks. One is called cold tank and another is called cold and hot tank. Okay. Okay. So in these tanks we normally have a molten salt. So in one of the tank there is a cold molten salt and in another tank there is a the energy stored in the form of a hot molten salt. In cold tank the molten salt is kept at around 180 degrees centigrade because below this 180 degrees centigrade the molten salt can start solidifying, right? So because the molten salt has to flow from this tank to this tank, so it should always be in a molten state. So these tanks are perfectly insulated, and that is why they can be kept at such a high temperature. So when the sunlight is in excess, so this energy of heat transfer fluid is used to store the thermal energy in the form of hot molten salt. So in that case, the cold molten salt is made to flow from this tank toward the hot molten salt tank through this heat exchanger. So here the high heat energy of STF is transferred to the cold molten salt, and this cold molten salt is converted into a hot molten salt and is stored in this hot storage tank. And here it can be stored at a temperature as high as 400 degrees centigrade. Right now, when this there is a requirement of this stored energy, this system works in a completely reverse order. Now suppose there is a need of energy. So what happens? The heat transfer fluid is moving in the downward direction, but this heat transfer fluid is not at a sufficiently high temperature. So in that case, the hot molten salt is made to flow from hot tank in towards the cold tank side. So in that case, this molten salt is made to flow here, from here, and then toward this side. Like so this circuit gets closed. So now in this case, what happens? The heat energy of hot molten salt is transferred to this heat transfer fluid. Then this heated uh, STF is now moves from here to again to the solar collector field, and then again it takes this route. Then it moves from here to the this area where this thermal energy is converted to the electrical energy. So this is how this heat storage system works, right? And it is a very critical system in any solar thermal power plant system to overcome the output variability uh, caused due to the variation in the solar intensity, right? Now, next we come to the third block, which is the thermal energy to electrical energy conversion block. So now here we can see that uh, from this three-way ball, a part of this heat transfer fluid is going to this thermal energy to electrical energy conversion block. Now let me explain the working of this various components in this block. Now here you can see that this is again a three-way ball. Now in this three-way ball, the heat transfer fluid is being divided into two streams. One goes to reheater and another goes to the superheater. So first let me explain the route of this heat transfer fluid which is going to the superheater. So it is from this three-way valve, it moves downward, goes to the superheater. Again, superheat. This is a heat exchanger. So this is the inlet of the STF, and then it goes out from the bottom here, and then from here this STF goes to the boiler. Then at the bottom of the boiler it comes out. Then it goes to the preheater, and then from the bottom again it comes out of the preheater and goes toward the left direction towards the solar collector field, right? Now another part of this SDF is goes to the reheater. So let me explain the route of this SDF, which is going to the reheater. It goes to the reheater. Again, it is a heat exchanger. It comes out at the bottom from the reheater like this. This blue line. Blue line shows the low temperature fluid. So and this red line shows the high temperature fluid. So after giving the heat to the in the reheater, this heat temperature of heat transfer fluid goes down and it comes down. Again, it moves to the left towards the solar collector field area, right? Now another fluid involved in this block is the water. Now let me explain the route of the water flowing in this circuit, in this block. Let me start from the exit of this low pressure section of this turbine. This is a turbine. This is the low pressure stage of this turbine, and this is the exit. Now from the exit of the turbine, uh, the the exhaust steam goes to the condenser where it gets condensed. Now this condensed water is fed to the boiler to be converted into steam, but before it goes to the boiler it passes through a preheater. So when feed water passes through the preheater, it gains the heat from the heat transfer fluid coming from in this direction like this. So by gaining the heat, this becomes relatively warm or hot. Now this hot water goes to the boiler. Now in the boiler, this hot water further gains the heat from this heat transfer fluid and gets converted into steam, and then steam goes to the superheater. In the superheater again, it is the steam receives further heat from the heat transfer fluid coming from this direction, and the steam is converted into a superheated steam. Now this superheated steam goes to the high pressure stage of the turbine. So, so after expansion in the high pressure stage, it comes out at some intermediate pressure. So here the pressure is low and temperature also goes down because of the expansion of the turbine in the high pressure stage. Now in order to gain or to obtain reasonable amount of work from the lower stage of the turbine, the enthalpy of the steam has to be increased. So in order to increase the enthalpy of this steam coming out from the high pressure turbine, high pressure stage of the turbine, the steam is reheated at the intermediate pressure in this reheater, right? So as it goes to the heater, this heat transfer fluid reheats the steam. So here at the out outlet of the reheater, the steam at high enthalpy, at high temperature, but at the same intermediate pressure comes out, and then it goes into the low pressure stage of the turbine. Now here it again does some work, and as it passes through the low pressure section, it expands and then it comes out of the turbine. So this is how this whole system works. Now this high pressure turbine, low pressure turbine are on the same, these are the rotary machine, they are on the same axle, and for this they are coupled with the generator axle. So they drive the generator produce the electricity, then electricity produced for the generator goes to the grid for further distribution, right? So this is the complete working of the solar thermal power plant. Now types of the solar thermal power plants. You see there are several types of solar thermal power plants based on the several types of solar collector field. You see, solar thermal plants use various types of solar energy collection and harnessing system to achieve appropriately high temperature, and accordingly various types of solar thermal plants are as follows. You see, the rest these two blocks in all the cases are same. The only difference is in this block. There are several types of solar energy collection and harnessing systems. So accordingly, there are several types of solar thermal power plant systems. They are parabolic trough solar collector plant. So here in this case, the figure shown here, it is a parabolic trough solar power plant because the solar energy collection and harnessing system has a reflector which is of parabolic trough type. Now, if this solar collector is of parabolic disk type, then this is called a parabolic disk solar power plant. And then third type is solar tower power plant, and fourth type is linear Fresnel reflector power plants. Now, I will cover these different type of power plants in the second lecture. And so that's it. So wait for